from Fat Quarter Shop, and we're adding to our shortcut quilt series. This series uses pre-cuts, and it's a great way to use what you have in your stash. Today's quilt is called Starry Charms. It uses 3 charm packs, 1 yard background, and a binding and a backing. And at the very end, I have something really cool to show you. So let's get started with our 3 charm packs and background. Your first step is to download your free pattern at fatquartershop.com, and then you want to get everything cut. These are our charm packs that we're going to use. We've already taken some of the fabrics out for our fabric bees and trimmed them down, and we've cut our C and D fabrics from our background. We're going to start by making some half square triangles. So what we'll do is open up one of the charm packs. And I'm just going to pick any random print. I'm just going to pick this one. I'm going to pair it with a fabric C background print. And you're not going to trim that at all. You're just going to leave it just like it is. I'm going to use a Creative Grid seam guide, draw a line 1/4 inch away from the center on both sides. And that's why I like the seam guide, because you don't have to measure. You just put your seam guide right on the points, and then you just draw your lines. We're going to go to our sewing machine, use a color 2000 thread, and stitch directly on these lines just using your normal stitch length. I have put on my machine an open toe foot, and I'm just going to stitch directly on those stitched lines. Now I used a friction pin because that will disappear with heat later. Once you have that sewn, you want to cut right in the center, and that's going to give you 2 half square triangles. Now with this pattern, using triangle paper from Triangles on a Roll or any other brand will not work because you need the full amount of the charm pack. From here, I like to set my seams, which means just place your iron on your fabric for about 5 seconds. That kind of locks in all your stitches. Then we're going to press toward your darker fabric and away from your background. Just place your iron right on the crease and don't move your iron around too much. So from here, you're going to trim your half square triangle down to get the perfect size. The easiest way is to get a Creative Grid's 4.5 inch square ruler. You put the diagonal line right on your seam. And I like to trim 2 sides at once, and then use a rotating mat. This is my Kimberly Cuts rotating mat. And then trim the other side, and you have perfect 4.5 inch half square triangles. And from here, you're going to continue this until you have 64 total half square triangles. So from here, I'm going to put my pattern right next to my design board. A design board, we have a video on how to make it. It is foam core board with one side and batting on top. And using that batting will help your fabric stick to it and keep it in place. So I'm going to build my block using all of my fabrics that I have cut. So I like this block to be pretty scrappy. So you will want to just try not to duplicate a fabric within the block. And you put your fabric bees on the outside, put a fabric D on the inside, which is a background, and then put some half square triangles around. So I probably wouldn't use this one since that's already in the block, but I can use this blue one, and that is the same print as this, so I'll probably just move these 2. And you just want to pay attention to the direction of your half square triangles, and so I probably won't use that one since it's right there, but I'll use this one. And I don't know about having the 2 yellows right there, so I'll probably do this. No, maybe I'll do this. So just play with your fabrics, make sure you're happy with it. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect since this quilt is scrappy and your fabrics will be reused throughout the quilt since you're starting with 96 5-inch squares. So then I'm just going to check that my half square triangles are going the same direction. And that one I need to rotate. And that looks nice. So from here, I'm going to place these right sides together, and I'm going to pin this entire seam right here. And then we're going to switch our sewing machine foot to 1/4 inch foot, and we're going to stitch all the way down this, and that is called chain piecing. So let's go to the sewing machine. So I'm going to clip those apart, open the seams back up, and then take these, put these right sides together, pin, and sew down this seam. Now I'm going to press all of these seams at one time. So this is how your block looks. I'll start with one side at a time though. So I'm going to put this flat, and I'll start with this side first. Set your seams by just placing your iron on top. Then we're going to press toward the prints, meaning our fabric D and fabric B squares, and away from our half square triangles. And you just do that by keeping the iron on one side of your block and away from the other seams on the other side. So that's done. And then here, set your seam here and do the same thing. And the key to this is just to make sure you don't smush the other side while you are pressing the first side. Now from here, we just need to sew these two seams. So I will put one side, right sides together. I'm going to pin, and the best thing to do is just pin your intersections. They should nest right there. They kind of interlock since we press the opposite direction, and press the sides, and we will sew down this side, and then we will, while we're at the sewing machine, we will pin the other side and then compress, and our blocks will be done. Now you'll see that I kept this one chain pieced together right here. And the reason why is now I don't have to think about which side it goes to. I just flip it, pin, and sew along that seam. And this is a great beginner quilt, and it's a great quilt to use up all those charm packs that you have. And if you're looking for another charm pack pattern, our Shortcut Quilt series has lots of charm pack patterns. So this time you're going to set your seam, press toward the inside, and following the pressing arrows in this free pattern from Fat Quarter Shop is important because when you get to the next step, you will rotate your blocks so all of your seams will match throughout the quilt and your seams will lie nice and flat. And if you wanted a slightly different look to this block, another thing you could do is you could make this piece a print and just have star points. So that's one thing different that you could do to your quilt. Now follow your pattern until you have a total of 16 blocks, and that'll be done in no time. You will lay out your quilt 4 blocks by 4 blocks, and when you lay them out, if you look, this is how the blocks were assembled, and these seams go in and these seams go the opposite way. So what you do is you rotate, and when you pin these together now, your seams will nest. So when you're laying out your quilt, you just want to make sure you rotate all your seams and sew all of your quilt center together. I want to show you another option. You can see the quilt behind me. We laid that quilt out 4 blocks by 4 blocks. We quilted it and bound it. Another option you could do to make it bigger is you could add borders to it before you quilt it. And then a third option is you can go to our YouTube channel and check out our video on how to make a quick step self-binding receiving blanket, and you won't even have to send your quilt to the quilter. So we have lots of options for you at Fat Quarter Shop, always bringing you lots of ideas, and you can make this quilt in less than a day. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on a future video.